Good afternoon, and welcome to the State of the Cultural Sector Town Hall. I'm Dave Lawrence, President and CEO of the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. I am so grateful to each of you for being here today and for your interest in our phenomenal arts and cultural community. The Cultural Council for Palm Beach County is the local arts service agency for the Palm Beaches. Our mission is to champion, engage, and grow the arts and cultural sector of Palm Beach County. We seek to honor and value creative expression of all people through the work of the Cultural Council. Creating an art-filled community means seeing, celebrating, and serving all, and the Cultural Council is committed to that work. This town hall is being presented as a Zoom webinar, as well as live on the Cultural Council's Facebook page. The session will be recorded for archival purposes and shared with everyone who registered. We have a fantastic lineup of panelists for you today. We've set up this webinar in active speaker view, so you will see each speaker when it is time for them to present. You should also note that we will be using the chat function exclusively to post important links from the Cultural Council and our panelists. The Q&A function will be where you, the audience, can ask questions at any time during this presentation. We have a team ready to respond, and you can also pose questions directly to our panelists. We have a packed schedule today and a lot of people attending this town hall, so we don't anticipate having a dedicated Q&A session. Please post your questions at any time. We chose today for our town hall as a way to celebrate National Arts and Humanities Month for the month of October. It is a coast-to-coast collective recognition of the importance of culture in America. It was launched by Americans for the Arts more than 30 years ago in honor of the 20th anniversary of the National Endowment for the Arts, and serves to raise public awareness about the role that arts and humanities play in our communities and our lives. I thought we'd begin our town hall with a question or three for all of you. You should see a poll pop up very soon on your screen. Please answer the three questions, and we will share results later in our presentation. The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly taken an enormous toll on our cultural sector. Before I share with you some of the impacts of COVID-19, it is important to acknowledge and celebrate the cultural sector as an important tourism generator, an economic engine for Palm Beach County, a significant resource in educating young minds, and a powerful connector and builder of community. Each year, the cultural sector in Palm Beach County generates $633 million in economic activity. Yes, every single year. This figure comes from a study conducted every 5 years with our parent organization, Americans for the Arts. Our sector employs nearly 15,000 full-time jobs, and our audience reach is an astounding 3.9 million each year. This is an important backdrop on which to place information about the impact the coronavirus has had on our cultural sector. We'll hear more about the national impact in just a moment. Today, I'm announcing the results of a survey of our cultural organizations conducted this summer by the Cultural Council. With over half of the organizations responding, here are the staggering results. The cultural sector has sustained a $48 million loss as of August 20th. That includes $26.2 million in earned revenue, with an anticipated additional lost revenue of $16.6 million by the end of the year, and more than $5.4 million in contributed income lost for the same time period. There have been 1,641 events postponed or canceled that has translated into a loss of attendance of 888,277. And sadly, there have been 593 furloughs and or layoffs during this time. Our cultural sector, a cultural tourism engine, an economic driver, a community builder, and an educational provider, has been brought to its proverbial knees by this pandemic. But the sector, both here in Palm Beach County and throughout the United States, is resilient, innovative, and determined to bounce back. Yes, it might look different. Experiences for some time will be different, but the arts and cultural sector is already returning. I want to introduce Randy Cohen, Vice President for Research for Americans for the Arts. Randy's knowledge of the national cultural landscape is absolutely incredible. I've known Randy and worked with him for many, many years, and I'm thrilled he could be with us today. So I turn the program over to you, Randy.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, everybody. It's so great to be back with you in Palm Beach County, one of my favorite places to visit. This native Floridian, by the way, trapped up here in the greater Washington, D.C. area. I so wish I was back with you all. The arts are such an important industry in this country. They're much bigger than anybody believes or thinks or understands. And you just heard the incredible numbers from Dave, and just the nonprofit culture sector audience is over $500 million. Statewide, you look at the whole creative economy, a $37 billion industry. That's 3.7% of the gross state product. You look at all the arts statewide, that's 261,000 jobs. It's a big industry, and it's really feeling the devastation of the arts. We'll go to the next slide, please. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for the work you're doing, because I know you're all under extraordinary stress these days. The arts have been devastated by the pandemic. Arts organizations, the first to close and are shaping up to be the last to open. And we see the impact on artists. 95% of artists and creative workers in this country have lost income. 63% fully unemployed. If you look at the typical artist in this country, averaging a $22,000 loss in creative income, creative work revenue as a result of the pandemic. And then if you look, deeper still, our BIPOC artists and creative workers, an even higher rate of unemployment, and even greater losses financially. And the challenges are just enormous for our arts organizations as well. You look at nonprofit arts and culture organizations across the country, 96% have had to cancel events. We estimate they've lost $13.9 billion to date. That's billion with a B, 467 million admissions. And so it's just been a very, it's just been devastating impact. I sometimes think, oh man, if only this were just a recession, it'd be a bad recession or an awful recession, but at least we got a playbook for a recession. The challenges are, we're looking at organizations that may not be opening for another year. About a third have laid off staff. So we're seeing 10% of organizations say they're worried they may not make it to the other side of the pandemic. In terms of opening and closing right now, nationally, we're looking at about 41% of organizations have opened at some level. 10% actually never close, but 4 in 10 are open, which means close to 60% haven't opened yet. The majority of them don't quite even have a plan yet. No target date for reopening. And it's just waiting to see what happens. When are we going to get this vaccine? And you may have heard Dr. Fauci a couple of weeks ago. It might be a year after the vaccine lands before we can go to a theater, and not wear a mask. Some of the big barriers to reopening that we're finding, arts organizations are worried that customers are unlikely to attend. And then there's government restrictions and guidelines being dealt with. Staff and board, just not sure, not ready, don't feel it's safe yet. We do see some, I've been seeing some organizations reopen tentatively. A number of museums have. I was just talking with the Smithsonian this morning. They've opened themselves up. They have timed admissions, 50% non-response rate, no shows. So folks are really trying to find their way through all of this. If you look beyond just the nonprofit sector and look at sort of all the creative economy, our commercial organizations, our galleries, our Broadway, our film industry, they're feeling it too. The Brookings Institute came out with a report a couple weeks ago that shows 1.4 million jobs, creative economy jobs, 50% are being lost. So Again, it's very challenging times, but there's really some positive news as well. We see 2/3 of organizations making their cultural product available virtually, online, through social networking, through their websites, and we're seeing the public, start to pick up on that. The data are just showing folks are looking for their creative and arts experiences. And, a lot of them are holding back till it's safe. But all the data show that when we get through this pandemic, when we get to the other side, they're going to be there. They're going to spend what they spent before. And there's a real hunger there for the arts. And I think that's, the opportunity. I mean, it's a lot of challenging news. Actually, we go to the next slide. The arts are going to help drive the recovery of our communities. And that's why it's so important that we pay attention to them now and preserve them and keep them in business. Because there's going to be two big things, that we need to focus on. How do we jumpstart the economy? That's the arts, right? In Palm Beach County, every time somebody goes to an arts event, they spend almost $32 per person per event on, and that's beyond the ticket price, on meals and parking and dessert or drinks after the show, maybe going, and coming home and paying the babysitter. The arts are kindling for the economy. They get us out of the home and they get us going to local businesses, to local merchants. 70% of the nation's economy is consumer expenditures. That's the arts. And then the other big issue is community and our connectedness. And we're isolated and we're distancing and loneliness and isolation figures are starting to go up. What do we do there? Again, this is the arts. The arts, they bring us to these shared public spaces and for shared events. And whether it's a performance or a festival or a mural, nobody cares who you voted for or where you practice your faith. It's something we do together. 72% of the American public says the arts unify our communities, regardless of age, race, or ethnicity. 73% say the arts help me understand other cultures in my community. All pressing issues. And so, stay strong, stay in there. The work you do is so important. The arts are on the right side of what needs to be done in this country. Everything you do to advance the arts is important. You're important for doing it. I want to thank the great Arts Council, the great staff there, the leadership with Dave. I normally am in a different city every week. You're really served by one of the greatest arts councils in the country there. So good luck to everybody. And hopefully next time we're together in town. So back to you, Dave.
Randy, thank you very much. Please pass along our gratitude to the entire team at Americans for the Arts. Your support, convenings, information, and resources have been so important to our entire sector during this time. To our audience, as we continue in our program today, don't forget, if you'd like to pose a question to any of our panelists, please use the question and answer function. Next, I would like to ask Glenn Jurgensen to share an update on tourism in the Palm Beaches. Glenn continues to be a remarkable advocate for the sector, especially this year, in the midst of some very difficult decisions and circumstances. I am so grateful for his leadership, his partnership, and his friendship. Glenn.
Thank you so much, Dave. Next slide, that's great. I just thank you to the Cultural Council and certainly to Dave for allowing me to give you an update today on how we are working to make this recovery something that we need to get done. We need to get done ASAP. So next slide, please. Just to give you a little bit of overview, certainly the TDC is the Tourist Development Council is made up of many of the different agencies. The Tourist Development Council is a county organization, county department. We certainly partner with all these organizations as agencies to help market, promote Palm Beach County, and certainly our other partners at Visit Florida, the International Airport, Palm Beach International, Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, and certainly our beach organization that helps make sure we have 47 miles of beautiful, pristine beaches in the county. Next slide, please. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of where we stand, back in the Great Recession, we were at a 20% decline in our bed tax collections. And certainly we're going to be very, very close to that. Some good news that's coming out of our bed tax collections for 2020 right now. We had made a projection early on when we were back in the March timeframe and we were going through and determining how bad this was going to be for our county. We were in the range of anywhere from a 35% drop to maybe where the Great Recession was at 20. And I will be talking to the TDC in the next week or so, and we're going to be pretty close to that. We're going to be back to the Great Recession decline of about 20% in bed tax collections for 2020. Next slide, please. And certainly that means a lot to our organizations. We came off a 2019, which was just a phenomenal year. We collected about $54 million in bed tax collections. And certainly, you know, as we came into the first half of the year, we were setting records throughout bed tax collections, room night generation. 2020 was just turning out to be spectacular until the month of March. Next slide, please. Certainly month of March, we came into a point where bed tax collections went down significantly. You know, the recovery is going to be driven by the leisure traveler. Leisure travelers, certainly those that also enjoy the cultural sector of this county. But we find, and we've done a lot of research, that, you know, that first trip, folks will be looking for a place that certainly beaches is great. We have 47 miles of them. They're going to be looking for first-class resorts, and we certainly have those from North County all the way through South County. And they're going to be looking for those less dense areas. And we in Palm Beach County are very fortunate to have such a parks and recreation organization and environmental management department within the county that we have some of the best wide open spaces in the state of Florida. So you'll see, those are the top reasons why people are even going to consider taking a vacation. And the leisure traveler will be the one that takes us out just like they did in the Great Recession. Next slide, please. The ones they're going to avoid are certainly cruises. We all know that. We know crowded destinations. And unfortunately, our international travel has dried up. I've been on many calls this morning, actually with the Destinations Florida team, hearing what it's like for many of the other counties across the state. And it has certainly been a devastating time. But the good news is we're all starting to see things come back. Next slide, please. So here's where we went. We went from being all records from October, which is our fiscal year. We had great numbers. We were coming right into March, and then COVID hit. So we went down. Our occupancy in the month of March just tanked totally. First 2 weeks were great. We actually had a convention at the Convention Center in West Palm Beach. Great convention, a lot of good things going on. And then the second week and into the third week, things just dried up. We bottomed in the month of April. We bottomed at 20% occupancy, and we have continued to be on the rise over the past months as we continue to work this recovery through and work towards certainly the month of December and another season coming upon us. Next slide, please. This will give you an idea of where some of the numbers are for us in terms of occupancy on a week-to-week basis, and the difference between what a weekday is and what a weekend is. The good thing is our weekends have we've started to see some good occupancy, not what we've experienced in the past years, but certainly to see the hotels be able to be in the mid-40s for occupancy is a real plus. All the counties in Florida, certainly weekday travel is a real challenge. And you can see Sunday through Thursday in the mid-30s is a challenge in terms of occupancy. Very tough for hotels to manage at that level. Next slide, please. And then by region, certainly Central Palm Beach County with the core number of hotels we have up in the West Palm Beach area, certainly been doing very well as we've averaging in the mid-40s. You can see South County where there's a bulk of those rooms that we have, certainly in the Boca Raton Resort has 1,000 rooms to itself. So they're a little challenged down in the 20s. Next slide, please. The biggest concern we've had over the years is over the months has certainly been our leisure and hospitality employment, and the real challenge that our friends and neighbors that are in this county and in this industry are really suffering. As you can see, we would normally be in the 96,000 employee level range. that we would have for leisure and hospitality in this county. And when we went into April, we dropped down to 51,000 employees. Significant drop, 45% drop. And we're not coming back that quick. We've recovered back to the month of July. We're at about 62,500. The hotels are basically running at about half of what they would normally have. They would normally have about 11,000 employees managing all the hotel properties across the county. They are running right now at about 5,100 employees. So 50% of what they would normally employ. So those folks are certainly, we certainly want to get this recovery going so that we can get those people back to work. Next slide, please. So with that, the Board of County Commissioners has been very, very supportive of tourism. I've been to many meetings with them and briefed them on the status of what's going on in the industry. Next slide, please. And we have looked at what's probably going to be a year of about $40 million worth of bed tax collections when's all said and done for 2020. Could be a little bit better. We're going to take a look at what we see for the last month of our fiscal year, which is this month. But still, 40 million is a tremendous hit to this industry and to all the organizations that are out there and doing the marketing and promotion, and certainly the cultural organizations. We know that you had to take a significant cut in your grants, and we tried to work with you to make sure that we could manage through them. Next slide, please. So certainly we went to the Board of County Commissioners and we asked them for stimulus. We worked on our board. Our TDC board is a very conservative board. We made sure that we've had reserves over the past years, and we put those reserves away for just these times. A rainy day fund that we need to pull out, and we need to get marketing going so that we can make this recovery happen. So we asked the board if we could certainly go through and first use some excess beach monies that had not been committed yet. And we certainly got approval to use $2 million of those. We will pay those monies back over the coming years. It's not something that we're just going to take and not give back to the beach organization, but we're going to use it now to get the visitors to come back. We have a special projects fund. We're going to take $2 million out of that and get things started in the marketing and promotion funds. We're also allowing our agencies to use $2.5 million of their reserves, up to about 50% of what they have. And that's going to give us a war chest of about $6.5 million of stimulus that we can go through and put to work getting visitors back to Palm Beach County. Next slide, please. And just to give you an idea of what we are doing for the recovery plan, and we've been working on this since the month of April when it all started. We are in various stages of recovery that we are working all together. This is everybody. This is Discover the Palm Beaches. This is the Cultural Council, the Film and TV Commission, the Sports Commission, our Convention Center, and our beach organization, working to make sure that we can get the marketing and promotion activities going to get the visitors back. We have been in stage one for the past few months up until actually the end of August, when we were really working on the stay vacation front. We were trying to make sure that our residents and our friends and relatives maybe to the north and the south of our county were coming to Palm Beach County and using the hotels and using our restaurants. We just moved into stage two, which is the Orlando and Tampa markets for some drive market advertising. We moved into that in late August, early September. And we will be back in the fly markets very soon, hopefully towards the November, December timeframe, as we start to see some things level off at the Palm Beach International Airport and also the airports to our south. But we will be back in those markets of the north, the Bostons, New Yorks. And we monitor very closely the positivity rates in those areas. We want to make sure that we know that we're not going to create another problem in Palm Beach County if folks are starting to travel here and creating another virus or a surge. And then we'll be back into our normal leisure brand campaigns in 2021. Next slide, please. So with that, certainly I'm going to pass it on, but I wanted to thank everybody in this sector that is certainly working very hard to make sure that we make this recovery happen. And we will get there. And I think 2021 season, we've all got our fingers crossed that we are going to have a very successful season. It's going to take us a while to get back to those 2019 levels, but we're on our way. So thank you very much, Dave, for allowing me to entertain these thoughts.
Thank you very much, Glenn. We did have a question from one of our audience members about what was the previous year's occupancy level. Do you have that number?
We actually would run in a previous year at about 73%. So yeah, we're going to be in the 50 to 60% range, depending on the next, it's a calendar year basis. So we'll see how that goes over the next 3 months.
Great. Thank you very much. And thanks for all that you do for the cultural sector, Glenn. We certainly appreciate it. One of the county's other big cheerleaders for arts and culture is West Palm Beach Mayor Keith James. Mayor James doesn't just talk about his support of the arts, he walks the walk. I have had the pleasure of seeing Mayor James and his wife at many cultural events and performances. It is wonderful to see such support from our elected officials. Mayor James, can you share your perspective on the effects of COVID-19 on the cultural sector of West Palm Beach?
Absolutely. And first of all, thanks, Dave, for that introduction. And let it be noted that I give my wife all the credit for infusing in me a sense of culture. That's a joke. Unfortunate thing with Zoom meetings is you can't hear the response from the audience. But anyway, special thanks to the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County for having me. The Cultural Council does such great work for our community, including the great city of West Palm Beach. We are so proud to have you as our partner, and please know how much we appreciate all the work you are doing in supporting the cultural community, especially during this time of need. Special hello to my fellow panelists and to the members, grantees, donors, board members, and other stakeholders and community leaders joining us today. Next slide. Okay. We have a great need to support the cultural sector right now. If I have one message today, it is this. The cultural community does have a friend in the city of West Palm Beach in restarting the arts. We are going to work together, hand in hand, to restart the arts in our community. We're not going to allow COVID-19 to do long-term damage to our cultural community. We're going to mitigate the short-term damage as best as we can. There's no doubt in my mind that the arts impact quality of life, education, and other aspects of our community, and they are also a major economic driver for West Palm Beach and the region. Next slide. West Palm Beach is the county's cultural capital with the most cultural institutions and the largest cultural institutions of any city in this area. Unfortunately, many have been completely shut down or are operating at half speed. Among the highest profile arts organizations in West Palm Beach are the Kravis Center, the Norton Museum of Art, and Palm Beach Drama Works. We are also proud to have the South Florida Science Center and Aquarium in our city. The Downtown Development Authority, led by Executive Director Rafael Clemente, also manages the West Palm Beach Arts and Entertainment District, which is a centralized collection of inspiring arts and entertainment venues, art and history museums, galleries, libraries, performing arts companies, and art education institutions. I'm proud to say that these are organizations that I support professionally and, as mentioned before, personally, along with my lovely wife, Lorna. But it is an understatement to say that the impacts to these cultural institutions has been absolutely devastating. As you've heard from the previous speakers, the numbers do not lie. West Palm Beach's cultural sector, comprised of arts, sciences, environmental, and cultural heritage organizations, serves as a cornerstone of tourism. It attracts audiences, spurs business development, supports jobs, and generates government revenue. The cultural sector also plays a vital educational role for students in pre-K through high school and beyond, as well as for college-age adults and even senior citizens. Of note, the Alexander Dreyfus School of the Arts is located in downtown West Palm Beach. Next slide. While we do not have fresh data on COVID-19's impacts to the West Palm Beach arts community, I was interested to learn that data about the impact that COVID-19 is having on our cultural institutions pursuant to the survey. I can, however, share that a 2018 study on the economic impact of nonprofit arts and cultural organizations and their audiences in the city of West Palm Beach, as conducted by the Arts and Entertainment Economic Prosperity 5, gives us a look at the impact of the arts in our city historically. Total industry expenditures, $222 million $33,417. Full-time equivalent jobs supported, $5,291. And the revenue to local and state governments, $21.7 million. Again, this is specific to the city of West Palm Beach and during much better times. There's no question about it. West Palm Beach is highly dependent on our cultural institutions to help generate tourism dollars that help drive our economy. It goes without saying that when the arts take a hit, our city takes a hit. Next slide. From the very beginning, we have stood in solidarity with our cultural institutions and in solidarity with many of you by joining those who went red on Red Alert Day in September to support the live events industry. In response to COVID-19, the city launched a number of programs to support our community, including short-term business microloans, rental assistance, and food distribution events. Now, I strongly urge, and I hope that you all would join me in urging lawmakers in Washington to work together and to negotiate in good faith a COVID-19 relief package that will benefit the city of West Palm Beach and cities nationwide, a package that will also help our great cultural institutions and the arts. It is vital. It is essential. The DDA's Arts and Entertainment District recently made an appeal to Palm Beach County administration to please consider the inclusion of the arts and entertainment industry in the next round of CARES funding allocation. Now, even though local governments are leading the pandemic response and helping to drive the economic recovery, municipalities have been largely overlooked for COVID-19 relief. Given many municipalities' ongoing concerns about budget shortfalls, layoffs, and scaled-back public services, Washington must develop a meaningful COVID-19 relief package that helps cities, helps their residents, and helps ensure a meaningful response and recovery for all. This includes our great cultural institutions. Next slide. We also launched a targeted initiative in support of our arts community called The Commons, 15 artists, 15 spaces. This program will provide financial relief to 15 local artists while simultaneously debuting various public art displays throughout the city. Each selected artist will receive $6,000 to create unique artworks that reflect, comment on, and reimagine our common spaces during COVID-19. Works included in this project will offer artists personal perspectives on the COVID-19 pandemic. The Commons, as we refer to it, is funded through the city's Arts and Public Places program, or AIPP, of which many of you are familiar. AIP projects are funded thanks to a 2014 ordinance requiring private developers to contribute to public art by commissioning artwork on their site or contributing to the city's public art fund, with the understanding by doing so, these pieces of art will contribute to the vitality and desirability of the city. The public art fund can be used for only the selection, commissioning, acquisition, installation, and maintenance of public art. The ordinance allows for a broad spectrum of artworks in our city. The AIPP program seeks to create public art that encourages artistic exploration, infuses creativity into the city's diverse neighborhoods, celebrates West Palm Beach's historical richness, and embraces art as an integral part of everyday life. We also remain supportive of the Palm Beach County Artist Relief Fund. Next slide. Now, quickly on a separate but related topic. We have put up the tilt panel walls on the Sunset Lounge, which is a former jazz lounge that is undergoing a $12.5 million restoration as we speak. Many of you may know that the Sunset used to host such artists as Count Basie, Ella Fitzgerald, and other iconic Black jazz artists. We look forward to this being another great cultural asset in our community when it is complete. Next slide. I'm so proud of our cultural institutions that have gotten creative and found a way to still connect with their patrons and supporters during this time. There are so many wonderful examples of online programming that are bringing arts, cultural, and education right into the homes of our residents and students, young and old. But we can all agree there is no replacement for the real thing. So we've got to work together to fight COVID-19. We have to work together to safely reopen. I also remain hopeful that an effective vaccination is on the horizon. In West Palm Beach, we are already preparing to assist in its distribution, whether through communications and information or actual distribution. In closing, please know that West Palm Beach is here for you, cultural community. Please do not hesitate to contact me or my team at City Hall. Our doors are always open, and let's restart the arts together. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for your continued support. As I think about COVID-19 and its effects on our cultural sector, I believe we need to think about COVID-19 not as a disruptor, but as an accelerator. COVID-19 has, whether we like it or not, presented us as a cultural sector with a choice to make in how we proceed. We could be like an ostrich with a head in the sand, or we could use this as an opportunity to innovate, to accelerate our creative thinking and build new ways of reaching audiences, sharing programming, and growing the cultural sector. I've asked 3 trailblazers to join us today. These are just 3 of many examples from which to choose in Palm Beach County of organizations that have decided to innovate out of this crisis. We'll hear from each of them back to back, and I thank them for their time. First, we'll hear from Andrew Cato, Producing Artistic Director and Chief Executive of the Maltz Jupiter Theater. Next, Kate Aritza, President and CEO of the South Florida Science Center and Aquarium. And finally, from Irvine Lippmann, Executive Director of the Boca Raton Museum of Art. So we'll start with Andrew. Andrew, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Am I on? Can you see me? I've lost audio for you.
I don't think we can see your video of you.
Yes, so I'm trying to start my video and it says the host has disabled it.
We will work on that.
Okay, now they're asking me to. All right, is that good? Terrific. Thank you so much for asking me to be part of this, Dave and Jennifer and the Cultural Council. Also, I'm so honored to be part of a panel with Kate and Irvine to talk about what's happening in our neck of the woods in the North County. And our story is a good story. And if you can advance to the next slide. One more. We are actually turning lemons into lemonade. That's our slogan for what we're about to do. Of course, the COVID-19 is the lemons, and hopefully you like lemonade. We're going to be taking steps to renovate our theater, a plan that we had been in the process of over the last 5 years, but now we have sped up that process. All of this, of course, began in March 13th of this year, like everybody else. If you go to the next slide, when we were doing a performance of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And we went through 3 weeks of rehearsal, and we did our dress rehearsal on a Sunday night. And that Tuesday, we were informed that the theater had to shut down. We very quickly filmed the show and then put it out to the subscribers who already purchased tickets, not to replace the show, but as a benefit, because we knew that people would be disappointed. We still haven't been able to present the show and hope to, if things get better, within this season. But 2 major decisions had to be made. And if you go to the next slide to see our situation, due to the restrictions on social gatherings and listening to our patron feedback, we canceled our 2021 season, this upcoming season. We put out a survey to our constituents, and it was very clear that not social distancing was not an option for our audience. They fall into the older demographics, and so we immediately started thinking about what we were going to do with this time, knowing that we had another year of fundraising to happen. The board challenged me and the staff to see if we could find a way to speed up the process of doing the build out. Simultaneously, we were forced to furlough 2/3 of the staff at the Jupiter Theater. And that's devastating if anyone has ever had to do that. To lose colleagues that have been with you for many, many years due to something that you have no control over is very, very difficult. So next slide. So we began to think about how we can make things better by building out sooner. So beginning in the fall of 2020, which is now, we will begin construction on Acts 2 and 3 of the Believe Capital campaign. Act 1 was the parking lot. That was always the plan. But Act 2 and 3 weren't supposed to happen until a year from now. So we sped that up. The scope will also be modified to complete some of the areas while framing out other areas to be finished later. So what that means is that we were going to do this in a second act and then a third act. The second act included the stage. The third act included our conservatory and a second 199 seat space. The essential facilities of the theater can resume this coming a year from now, October of 2021. And the way we accomplished this is that we decided that we would frame out the entire building area, but we would not complete everything. We would gray box out certain areas. So go to the next slide and I'll kind of break it down so you can see our plans. So this is a rendering of what the building will look like. As you can see, it's spectacular. One of the features you can see is 3 stories of production centers, the top floor being a rehearsal hall, the second floor being a costume shop, the first floor being dressing rooms and green rooms. And then the stage tower right next to it, the taller part, is also fenestrated with glass, so it has an atrium on the inside and 5 stories of staircases. And in the very back of the building, so on to your very left, would be a restaurant or a dining experience entitled Scene. So go to the next slide. So what we are able to do and accomplish is on the first floor, we'll do excavation. We have a new orchestra pit and trap room. We'll expand the stage 10 feet deeper, 6 foot wider on either side. And the proscenium arch, which is about 17.5 feet, will go up 3 feet. We will add a new green room space, new dressing rooms, new loading dock, and the second space, which is at the top of your screen, you'll see it in white with, it looks like rose, that's our second space. That won't be finished at this point, but we'll go ahead and box that area. You see kind of an L-shaped area around the building. All right, next. This is an example of the new first floor GR2, we're calling it, Green Room 2. We have one upstairs in the back of the building, so this will be our second one. Go ahead, next. And this is a side elevation of the building. So what's happening is you can see 3 stories of production facilities. Right now, we have barely one. We've been creating gourmet dinners on a campfire backstage. The front of house has always been beautifully appointed, but backstage area was underserved, especially for the kinds of shows that we were doing with 30 cast members. So you'll also see under the stage, we'll have rooms for traps. The whole goal is so that we can do pre-Broadway shows. So the stage tower goes up another 20 feet. And then in your lower right-hand corner, you see a box of what the theater will have. We're adding 42 seats, which was not an objective, one of the objectives that we were hoping to do, but one of the benefits that come out of this. So 42 additional seats at the front of the theater. The intimacy of the space will not be changed though. The stage, the house chamber rather, will be exactly the same. Next slide. On the second floor, we're gonna have a new costume shop. Again, it'll be framed out but not finished. Amp and dimmer rooms, administrative offices, and then Scene, which is our dining experience, will be framed out as well. That's at the top left part. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is a rendering of what Scene will be. Now, we're not going to complete it in this phase, but it's something to look forward to once we've been able to fundraise this aspect of it. Next. And then on the third floor, a very large rehearsal hall. You know, for years we've been bringing actors down to Florida to do their work with the promise of sunshine, and then we put them in a room that used to be the kitchen of the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theater with no windows, and that's where they remain for 3 weeks. This is an area of glass on the third floor that they can look out. It's going to be beautiful, twice the size as normally would be required. Then we'll also have a second rehearsal space and the conservatory, which is also gray boxed and on hold until we're able to fundraise it. That will be framed out. Right, next. This is a picture of what the rehearsal hall will look like on the third floor. All right, next. Again, everything that we're doing right now was part of a 5-year strategic plan that we used. You know, we looked at other regional theaters to see what they were accomplishing, and we looked at the constraints that was holding us back as a regional theater, and all of our needs came out of facility changes. So that's why this is happening. But basically 3 major objectives that we'll be accomplishing through this build out. One, to create an organization that can create pre-Broadway shows. So there's a picture of Hamilton here. All Broadway shows before they go to Broadway are created in regional theaters like the Multidistributor Theater. So we want to be competitive to be able to do that work with both Broadway and national tours. We're also going to double the size of our education facilities, our Conservatory of Performing Arts, and diversify our programming. Right now we do large-scale plays and musicals, but we want to do alternative work. We want to do play readings, film series, and we'll be able to do that in a second 199-seat space that will be coming up as soon as we can fundraise it, but I would say in the next year or two. Next slide. The total project cost as it stands right now is a staggering $30 million, almost $31 million. It's been 5 years of fundraising. I'm super excited because every day I get to participate in all of the details of the building, and I can tell you it's going to be a real asset for our community to have already the largest regional theater in the lower half of the United States by virtue of the fact that we're a B+ theater. We're the only B+ theater in the lower half of the United States. But because of the facilities, we'll be able to do so much more for our community. And with that, I thank you again so much. I hope I stayed within my time, but thank you for allowing me to speak to everyone.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Exciting stuff happening. And thank you to Dave, Jennifer, everyone at the Cultural Council for putting this on. I'm honored to be here this afternoon. So I'm Kate Aritza, President and CEO here at the South Florida Science Center and Aquarium. I'm very, very happy to be talking to everyone out there in Cyberland right now. So a little bit of what's happening here at the Science Center. We closed our doors on Monday, March 16th, like many other cultural organizations. And yes, science is a part of culture here in Palm Beach County. We are very proud to be a part of culture here in Palm Beach County. And we absolutely love playing a role in the Cultural Council. So within 48 hours of our closure, we had over a dozen programs online. We knew we had to hop on this virtual programming train. These programs are a mix of live and pre-recorded. We turned the entire Science Center into a recording studio. Truly, we had staff learning how to use the video cameras, how to edit, lighting, lights, camera, action, you name it. We staggered these sessions in the Science Center so that no more than 4 people were here in the building at any given time. And our custodial staff sanitized every area that they worked in afterwards. So by that Friday, 4 days after our closure, we had 52 programs online. And the cool thing was we found that families as far away as Alaska were actually viewing our shows, our live shows. And because of this live shows and programming, we could interact with them real time. We have a very close relationship with the Palm Beach County School District. So we were asked if the school district asked if they could use some of our pre-recorded videos and some of our worksheets to help supplement the science lessons. Because remember, this was back in March when schools closed very, very abruptly. So we were really happy and we were eager to help out with the school district during those early stages of closure. And because of the PPP money that we received very quickly, we were able to keep all staff employed through our closure. And me being the CEO, that was very, very important to me. I was really, really proud of that fact. We also found ourselves in a unique position during this time to help out the medical community. Right now in our Stiles Nicholson STEM Education Center, we actually have one of the largest 3D printing labs in the county. We have over 30 3D printers, and we wanted to put these to good use. Our staff, who is the most brilliant staff I've ever had the chance to work with, way smarter than I'll ever be. So they were able to open source lots of different items to see what would print the best on our 3D printers. So we tried printing the nasal swabs, the face masks, and the face shields. And what we found was on our printers, the face shields printed the best on our type of 3D printing. So we were able to start mass printing 200 batches per week of these face shields. And by the end of May, we had given away, totally free, no charge, over 2,000 face shields to organizations as far north as Orlando and as far south as Miami-Dade. And we were really, really happy and really proud. Every West Palm Beach first responder, fire, police, medical, every tester, they all had one of our 3D printing face shields from us here at the Science Center. So we were really, really proud of that fact. And also during this sad and scary time, it gave our staff this really sense of pride, this large sense of pride that we were doing our part to help in this pandemic. And that morale boost was something we really, really needed, considering our doors were still closed. But alas, we opened our doors back up on May 22nd after a 67-day closure. I was so excited. I felt like a kid on Christmas morning opening our doors again, and I've been here at the Science Center for 11 years. We were one of the first cultural organizations to reopen as soon as the governor lifted restrictions, and that was really important to us. And we felt like if any organization should be able to open, it should be a science organization. We followed the science. We put a lot of thought into our opening plan and our safety procedures, and we actually required that all guests and staff were wearing mandatory face masks before it was even mandated by the county. So that leads me to the first couple pictures here of some of our programming. So this is a picture, a new normal here at the Science Center. This is a mother and her child out on our 18-hole mini golf course. She's wearing a face mask, he's wearing a face shield. If you want to, next slide, please. This doing our touch tanks inside the Science Center. Obviously, everyone's still wearing face shields, and we do these in small groups at a time. Next picture. And this is our new amphitheater, our Cox Amphitheater, which was just built. We actually just got the CO and the permit to use it in May. So we were really excited, and we really came up with creative ways to use every inch of our outside space. And what you're looking at here, our outside amphitheater, we did this, and we did all of our shows and demos, and we're still doing them outside to make families more comfortable. This is, if you don't know, we have a 5-acre Fisher Family Science Trail here at the Science Center. So we're coming up with really creative ways to do pretty much everything outside right now. Families bring their towels, they bring their picnic baskets, and at this point, they all pretty much know how to social distance themselves on our big lawn area. We also were one of the few organizations that held in-person science camps this summer. Again, that was really important to us to make this offering. We limited the camp capacity, and we hired on extra custodial staff to help with the deep cleaning every single night. And I will say that as parents went back to work this summer, they were so appreciative that there was an organization like ours that they felt safe enough to drop their child off all day and know that they were learning science at the same time. Because by this point, remember, kids have been out of school for months. So that our summer camps were really a great success over the summer. Much of our summer, though, however, was spent preparing for our fall blockbuster exhibit. We now have an exhibit, a blockbuster exhibit open here at the Science Center, Real Bodies. As you can see, here's a picture of it right here. For quite some time, we weren't even sure if this exhibit was going to get to us. It had to be shipped across the country, and because of travel restrictions, it was a logistical nightmare, but the trucks arrived and we started setting up a few weeks ago. This is an exhibit that is known throughout the world. It has actual human specimens on display. It's very tastefully done. It's very respectfully done, and clearly pretty timely given the fact that we are in the midst of a global pandemic right now. And keep in mind, we booked these exhibits years out, so we had no idea this would be the State of the Union when this exhibit got here. But it's also relevant and really exciting to us that now in every gallery, we have facts about how COVID affects the different parts of the body. So for example, in the nervous system gallery, you'll learn, and there's lots of verbiage and label copy, that the most common symptom of COVID in the nervous system are headaches, and so on and so forth. And you'll learn all about those tidbits. It's very, very informative and informational. And the good part is that as more research comes about, we can evolve and we can update these portions as well. Remember, it's all about the science with us. So if you want to go to the next slide. So we have been open here for, the Blockbuster exhibit has been open for a week, and I can say that feedback has been very, very strong and very positive. And talking about tourism, on our first opening weekend, we drew visitors from the West Coast, we drew visitors from Naples, from Jacksonville. We actually had people coming from Orlando. So this visitors drew them in. They were very, very eager. This exhibit drew them in. Our guests were very, very eager to see this. We implement time tickets. We know exactly how many people are in the exhibit or in the Science Center at any given time. And of course, we have all our capacity restrictions in place. And we do most of our shows outside on, as you just saw, our Cox Amphitheater and our Fisher Family Science Trail. And people can spread out across our entire campus. So what we want everyone to know is from the Science Center, we are surviving, soon we will be thriving, and we are doing it safely. Thank you so much.
Next up is Irvine Lippmann from the Boca Raton Museum of Art. Irvine.
Good. I think I'm on. Thank you, Kate. Oh, here we are. There I am. Good. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Dave. The Boca Raton Museum of Art reopened on June 3rd, adapting day by day as the crisis unfolded. Throughout this time, we kept the entire museum staff employed, again, thanks to PPP, but most working remotely from home. What was clear almost immediately was that the identity and certainly the economic model of who we were as an institution had to change. With social distancing came the realization that our usual bag of tricks was useless, at least for the immediate future. The health crisis, the uncertain economic climate, and extreme social and political tensions all clearly indicate the need for a new model for the museum, and as you've already heard, probably for our industry and the arts sector as well. Get the first slide. When we reopened, we decided not to charge admission, making our admission desk and renovated lobby strictly a welcome center. Free removed at least one obstacle to audiences returning. Furthermore, we branded the museum as a place of repose, a safe way to come out and regain normalcy. However, it appears that exhibitions and events will not be enough anymore to be successful or relevant while people remain uncertain about venturing out or joining groups. If they don't come, do they count? Our planning has shifted emphasis to consider how people experience the museum, and we are seeking new ways to present compelling experiences beyond traditional attendance. I'm keenly aware that we must literally and figuratively open our walls and reach out further to fully link us to the community and beyond, and redefine how we serve diverse audiences. As a symbolic gesture, we actually tore out the walls when creating our new Woljan Education Center, which opened in June. What happens in the museum is now available to those outside. You can see and sometimes hear art and activities that take place inside while you are still outside in Meisner Park. Oops, sorry. We changed the museum's hours from 11 to 7 to better align ourselves with our retail and restaurant neighbors in Meisner Park, thus encouraging crossover use by visitors for betterment of all businesses. We realized we had an unprecedented opportunity to recommit to our mission, but also an inescapable challenge of presenting new attentiveness to our entire community, to meet them where they were. In redefining ourselves, we reevaluated all programs and redefined our audiences. Like most institutions, we diversified our experience by developing virtual programs and a more robust website. Thus far, the museum has created over 140 virtual programs that have impacted almost 200,000 users, and press coverage on our digital programs has reached over 1 billion media impressions worldwide, including the Wall Street Journal, Time, CBS News, Al Jazeera, and the New York Times. Our marketing and PR efforts are funded largely through our TDC grant, and it is critical that we continue to invest, perhaps more now than ever, in keeping our institutions, our artists, and our community front and center. The museum must engage contemporary society in its issues or be irrelevant and perhaps no longer valuable. One new initiative, primarily outwardly directed, is our commitment to serve the local artists better. We have created the Artist Alliance to engage Palm Beach County artists, both professional and aspiring, with monthly facilitated peer critiques, professional development coaching, studio visits by curators, educators, and collectors, quarterly skills workshops taught nationally by recognized leaders in the field, and the opportunity to exhibit and sell works of art in a signature annual juried exhibition. In support of this service, we seek opportunities for camaraderie in the creative community and between our peers, and look forward to collaborating with similarly driven groups such as the Cultural Council and the universities to strengthen this place for artists. Together, we can nurture sort of a positive, infectious celebration of the arts. One of the ways we are widening the horizon of the museum is through our focus on art in public places. We started with a complete renovation of our environs around the museum, our promenade along Federal Highway, which you see here, and soon to be inaugurated, our re-envisioned sculpture garden and entryway will provide new encounters with art in the open air. Just the opposite of the secluded events we are all becoming too used to. I'm sure we are all ready to move away from our computer screens, and perhaps you are already. We see this effort expanding even further to link the museum with the rest of the city, either through the loan of sculptures from our collection or by us facilitating new work to be created, as we did with a sculpture by Hubert Phipps. Once completed, you see here the 30-foot tall polished steel sculpture under construction. It will be placed on the Boca Raton Innovation Campus designed by Marcel Breuer for IBM. One of the beauties of art in public places is that there is no admission desk. It is free, it is for everyone, and it's just the opposite of a digital encounter. The civic landscape then becomes the framework. It extends beyond our computer and television screens and even the museum itself. And we feel it's our moral responsibility now to act upon it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Irvin, and thank you, Andrew and Kate, for your trailblazing work and your innovative approach to recovery. And thanks also for all that you do for the arts in Palm Beach County. Folks, we are running a little long. We've had a lot of great information to share with you. If you are able, please stay on the town hall. We are probably running about 10 to 15 minutes long, but we have some pretty exciting announcements yet to come, so stay with us. So how has the Cultural Council responded to COVID-19? We launched the COVID-19 resource page that included information on open organizations, lists of virtual programming, resources for funding and information relating to the pandemic, and much more. We raised funds and launched the Palm Beach County Artist Relief Fund, providing over 100 grants of $250 each to creative professionals in all artistic disciplines to assist these artists with expenses after cancellations and postponements of gigs and exhibits this past spring. We have presented virtual sessions of our Institute for Cultural Advancement program to assist cultural organizations and artists, and we are not done yet. We are also joined today by Palm Beach County Commissioner from District 2, Greg Weiss. Commissioner Weiss is a board member of the Cultural Council and an ardent supporter of arts and culture. I've asked Commissioner Weiss to join me today in making a very special announcement. Commissioner, you've spoken so eloquently about the cultural sector during this time. As you've heard the presentations today and from your vantage point as one of the leaders of our county, can you share your thoughts on why supporting our cultural sector is so important?
Well, thank you, Dave, and thanks to everybody for being here this afternoon. I was looking at our participant list, and I just want to give a shout out to my colleague, Mary Lou Berger. Commissioner Berger is watching this town hall. So hi, Mary Lou. And I also want to say, I hope there's no flies in my house and one doesn't land on my head. So, but Dave, you know, this really is an important sector of our community. We've talked about the economics impact, we've talked about the jobs in our tourism sector, but this is really about who we are as a community and how we share ourselves to the rest of the world and how we view ourselves. And culture is a very important part of Palm Beach County. You know, and I think we've seen our cultural organizations adapting because they know the importance in our community, and they've adapted to some of the changes that have been hoisted upon them through this pandemic. And to them, I salute them all for their excellent, excellent work. Back in the spring, the federal government allocated funds to counties and states through their CARES Act. And those funds we initially utilized for things like providing PPE and testing, and also making sure that we were providing support to our businesses and so forth as we've gone through this, and paying people's rents and being able to help out with mortgages and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of flexibility in that funding. But one of the areas that we realized that is so important and needs to have its own special fund is our cultural sector. So I'm really pleased to be with you this afternoon to be able to announce our Palm Beach County Cultural Resiliency Fund. The Cultural Council worked very closely with our County Administrator, Virginia Baker, and Glenn Jurgensen of our TDC organization. And this past Tuesday on October 6th, the vote came in front of our board, and I have to say, I was so pleased. It was unanimous to support this fund. And there's going to be over $1 million made available specifically targeted to our cultural organizations. I also want to thank my fellow commissioners, Mac Bernard and Melissa McKinley, for their undying and unwavering support, as well as Commissioner Berger, who has been an advocate of the arts for so many years as on service on our board. And a big shout out to Vice Mayor Weinroth for his enthusiastic support for the arts. So this was a unanimous vote by our entire board, and I look forward to your continued success and our continued restarting of our cultural sector in Palm Beach County. Thank you so much, Dave, for giving me this opportunity this afternoon.
Commissioner, I cannot begin to thank you and the other commissioners for your vote of confidence in our cultural community. And I also want to make sure that I give a special thanks to Glenn Jurgensen and County Administrator Virginia Baker for their support in the development of the Palm Beach County Cultural Resiliency Fund. Here's a bit more information on this new source of funding for our cultural organizations. This fund is a grant program comprised of dollars from the Federal CARES Act that will provide direct grants of up to $25,000 to cultural organizations that have received funding from the Cultural Council in the last 5 years. The funds will be awarded before December and must be spent by 12/31. Organizations will be required to complete a short application form and provide documentation and a final report. Guidelines and application materials will be found at palmbeachculture.com/grants. The grant applications will be available beginning Friday, October 16th. So once again, the Cultural Council is so proud to bring this program to our sector to aid in the recovery and relief efforts. October 16th is also an important day for our cultural sector in Palm Beach County. Our cultural tourism work, in conjunction with the Tourist Development Council and our sister agencies, will pick up considerably with the launch of Mosaic campaign. Mosaic is an acronym for Month of Shows, Art, Ideas, and Culture. In a pivot to respond to the COVID crisis, we have expanded our Mosaic celebration to be months of shows, art, ideas, and culture. This multi-month celebration will encourage everyone to restart with the arts by enjoying safe and engaging cultural activities. For our promotional graphic for this year's Mosaic campaign, the Cultural Council commissioned renowned Palm Beach County artist Bruce Helander to create this fantastic collage. Mosaic will feature hotel deals and special discounts on arts and cultural experiences, helping to boost cultural tourism and visitation to local arts organizations. The cultural offers will launch on Friday, October 16th. And here's a fun video to get you excited about Mosaic this year.
Restart with the arts this fall during Mosaic. Cultural organizations in the Palm Beaches are welcoming visitors back with safe experiences for the whole family. Explore spacious museums, botanical gardens. Restart with the arts this fall during Mosaic. Cultural organizations in the Palm Beaches are welcoming visitors back with safe experiences for the whole family. Explore spacious museums, botanical gardens, historic sites, nature preserves, and a wide variety of virtual events to enjoy in Florida's cultural capital. Visit mosaicpbc.com to learn more and save on arts and culture and hotels in the Palm Beaches.
October 16th is turning out to be a rather big day. In addition to the launch of the Palm Beach County Cultural Resiliency Fund and the launch of the Mosaic Cultural Tourism Campaign, October 16th will also be the launch of a Palm Beach County movement to promote the cultural sector's recovery. Called Restart PBC, this is a social media campaign in which everyone in Palm Beach County can participate. We're going to ask cultural organizations, civic institutions, and other businesses to light their buildings green on Friday, October 16th. Individuals can get in on the fun by wearing green as well on the 16th. Why? Green means go. We will show through our collective efforts that the cultural sector is ready and everyone is encouraged to go. The Cultural Council has prepared a social media toolkit that includes graphics and suggested messaging that cultural organizations can share with their audiences. If you're a business owner or someone who can help us flip the switch on October 16th, we're asking you to light your building green to show that culture is an important part of Palm Beach County. Through this movement, we are inviting everyone to go and experience culture throughout the Palm Beaches. For more information and to access the toolkit, visit palmbeachculture.com/restart. And if that wasn't enough, at 7 p.m. on October 16th, the Cultural Council will launch an exhibition entitled, How Do We Move Forward? Curated by Anthony Burks, one of our inaugural Artist Innovation Fellowship recipients, and Trina Slade Burks, the opening event will be presented virtually and will feature the works of 5 Black artists in Palm Beach County and 5 Black poets or spoken word artists reflecting on our current national conversations on issue of race and social justice. We hope that you will join us for this free event. The Cultural Council is leading the charge to show Palm Beach County that we are here, that culture matters, and that despite the devastating impact of COVID-19, the sector is resilient, recovering, and ready for your support, either through attendance in person or through innovative virtual experiences, or through contributions and membership to our world-class cultural institutions. Before we wrap up, let's look at the results of the poll that we asked you to complete at the start of our town hall. I think we're going to have those come up on the screen now. Here we go. So the first question, have you participated in a virtual cultural program since March? Look at that. 85%, 122 respondents said yes, they have participated in an online virtual program. Probably not surprising for all of us. Number two, do you plan on visiting a museum, a botanical garden, a science center, historic site, or other cultural venue this fall? 69% said yes, 8% said no, and 24%, 8% said no, and 24% are unsure. And finally, what will make you feel safe visiting a cultural venue or attending a performance in the future? And mandatory face coverings is clearly the number one answer there, followed closely by the ability to be outdoors or enjoy the outdoor activities and limits on crowds. We'll share these results of the poll with our cultural partners. This will be important information for them as they continue their planning for the fall. On behalf of the board and staff of the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County and the cultural organizations and professional artists in all artistic disciplines that make this such a remarkable place to live, work, and play, I say thank you. I invite you to join us on October 16th for the Restart PBC campaign launch, and I invite you to go explore and restart with our phenomenal cultural sector. Thank you for being with us today for this State of the Cultural Sector Town Hall. Have a great night.